They are now firmly elite. They're at the top of college football. They are actually ESPN's #1 football power index team for 2018 and one of the few teams that will appear on the main network. It's coming up this Saturday, April 14th at 2 o'clock, 2:30 Eastern time. And we're talking about the Clemson Tigers. And we bring on Ryan Cantor from Shaking the Southland to help us prep for the game that concludes the spring sessions of 15. Ryan, how you doing this afternoon?
Good. It's good to be talking football again.
Yeah, definitely. Good to have you on here with your Clemson orange on and ready to go to the ball game. So I know that in surveying the field, the roster, the personnel, and what you expect out of this football team, knowing what the personnel leaving to the NFL draft, that you've zeroed in on a selection of 3 areas in which you have some concerns, some questions, and really are going to be eyeing this Saturday.
Yeah. So the first one is the Sam position. So Clemson lost maybe their best, if not their most important, defensive player, Dorian O'Daniel, who played the Sam position last year, a linebacker. What was so great about him was his versatility. Extremely fast, could cover a lot of ground. And so the Tigers didn't have to rely on substituting quite as much, didn't have to use the nickel package quite so much. They could just leave him in. He was very good in coverage. That was a big upgrade for the Tigers last year overall. Their linebackers were better in coverage. So he's gone. He's off to the NFL. So they're going to have to replace him. Jalen Williams is behind him on the depth chart, or was behind him on the depth chart, and may start. But now we're hearing that Isaiah Simmons, who was a safety last year, may move down and play at the Sam. That's a great development. He has tons of upside. He has excellent speed. He's a physical player. So obviously, you need the depth in the secondary, which is probably one of the bigger weaknesses Clemson has, probably the most glaring weakness, to hold up for him to do that. But he should get a shot here in the spring game. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on number 11, Isaiah Simmons, and number 30, Jalen Williams. We'll see if they're on opposite teams. We can get a good eye on both of them. See how they perform at the Sam.
So Jalen Williams coming off a season with 21 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. Dorian O'Daniel, if you watch Clemson football, he was just another freak on defense that disrupted the offense time and time again. Second on the team in total tackles with 88, 11.5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks and 2 interceptions. So he really filled up the stat sheet. And as Ryan mentions, a prime NFL prospect that we will see in just a few weeks at the NFL draft. All right, switching to the offense, tight end has not necessarily been a prime position. We could mention for a number of reasons, Ryan. The first one that would come to mind for me was that there's just been so many dynamic outside threats, and of course in the slot as well. Your thoughts about the tight end position coming into Saturday's game?
Yeah, that's another spot I'll be watching. Last year was really a down year for tight ends. The tight end needs to be a big part of the Clemson offense. Kelly Bryant, I think, gets a lot of flack for his performance in the Sugar Bowl and in general his performance as a passer. But he doesn't get enough credit sometimes for overcoming the losses that they had in the receiver corps with Mike Williams and Artavis Scott leaving, and also Jordan Leggett. Last year was Clemson's least productive year in terms of receptions and yardage at the tight end position since 2008. Tight ends only caught 25 passes for 348 yards. Part of that's because Garrett Williams tore his ACL before the year, so he comes back. So now Garrett Williams and Mylan Richard will compete for playing time. You also see Cannon Smith and J.C. Chalk competing for playing time. So I'm interested to see Garrett Williams, see if he's ready to make an impact, and see if Mylan Richard has grown more from last season. I think of tight ends kind of a black hole in the offense, at least from a receiving standpoint. That's it kind of handicaps their potential.
Yeah, Mylan Richard with 18 receptions, 210 yards, and a couple touchdowns last season. I know that you're going to be eyeing the wide receivers. Now, normally I look at the Clemson wide receivers during the regular season for the reason all college football fans do, because it's been one of the prime positions of talent across college football in recent years. But you move those guys onto the NFL, and there's some intrigue as to, okay, who's going to fill these spots? What are they going to look like? What are the coaches going to do in regards to inside versus outside threats? And how do you look at this position so far?
Yeah, so Alex Kraft is going to have a great piece up Friday, the day before the game, about what he's looking for out of the spring game. And he and I have a really strong agreement on this, and that's although Deion Kane and Ray McCloud are both leaving, we both feel that the wide receiver core could actually get better. Kane was good, but he wasn't really a great fit at that 9 position. That's the typically where you put the taller receiver who's going to go up and get the vertical routes and win those jump balls. It's like the Martavis Bryant kind of position. And that just really wasn't where he thrived. So now this opens up a spot for either T. Higgins and or DeAndre Overton, taller receivers, more about high pointing the ball to get a lot of playing time. So that's exciting. So I'm looking to see one or both of them show off their ball skills, ability to high point it, make some plays. We'll see if Kelly Bryant or any of the other quarterbacks show a little bit more ability and trust going downfield. And then coming out of camp, we're hearing a lot of good reports about Amari Rogers. He'll be at the 2 wide receiver position, running the screens, the end arounds, all those type plays. So we'll see if he could do anything dynamic. I think he's going to be a big part of the offense. And overall, I think the wide receiver core could be better despite losing 2 potential NFL guys.
Overton caught 14 passes in 2017. T. Higgins with 17 receptions at almost over 20 yards per reception and 2 touchdowns. And nothing really that Overton did last year really comes to mind for me, a guy that watches, obviously, the big games. But T. Higgins, I mentioned earlier this offseason that I was going to really diagnose breakout players across college football. And that's a guy that I targeted in profiling before the season starts. T. Higgins, I think, is just an exceptional athlete and could really have a huge 2018.
Yeah, he's shown flashes. He had one particular catch, I think it was like in the FCS game towards the end of the year, where he kind of bobbled it and kept it alive and reeled it in. He, I think it was South Carolina where he really ate him up. He was a huge part of the game plan against Alabama, but got hurt, and that really changed the game. I think he's going to be a primary piece in the Clemson offense this year. And I think Overton's very good too and just hasn't really gotten enough opportunities. I think he's very good, and I think you'll see their receptions and yardage on both those guys double and then some.
We've got Ryan Cantor on the line from Shaking the Southland. Please join him and the rest of the staff right there for the very best in Clemson football coverage. And the spring game is coming up this Saturday, April 14th on ESPN at 2:30 Eastern time. So, Ryan, my YouTube channel would probably get shut down if I didn't ask you about quarterbacks. People would think I was insane because, of course, that's the storyline and the narrative that everyone's talking about surrounding Clemson football, especially considering Kelly Bryant taking too much of the brunt of the blame from the Sugar Bowl loss and only 6 points on the board, but also a couple 5 stars on the roster in addition. So your thoughts about quarterback and the guys protecting them?
Yeah, so last year at the spring game, we were really interested to see the quarterback competition, but the offensive line struggled so much it kind of marred the whole game as far as what you could learn from it. I think Sean Pollard left with like a minor injury. You already have the offensive line split in half, so it was really bad. They were just running for their lives. So hopefully that's not the case, and we get a great look at these quarterbacks. I think the quarterback stable this year is better than last year, given we've added Trevor Lawrence and Hunter Johnson has more experience. Chase Bryce has more experience, and obviously Kelly Bryant has a whole year under his belt. I expect Kelly Bryant to start. I think if you look at Clemson's schedule, to no fault of their own, I mean, Texas A&M's a tough schedule, and as is Florida State every year, and they're on the road at both of those. They just happen to be down. Clemson's schedule is pretty easy. I think they could go 11-1, 12-0 with the steady senior quarterback. The question is, are you going to beat Ohio State? Are you going to beat Alabama? Are you going to beat a truly great team with him? And we'll see if I want to see if he can be dynamic, not just as a runner. Can he also pass? Can he hit intermediate and deep balls? So that'll be interesting. Obviously, everyone's excited to see Trevor Lawrence. We'll see him for the first time. So that's obviously exciting. And that's kind of a given why I didn't even mention it. Everyone's excited to see him and also see what type of progress Hunter Johnson has made, as well as Chase Bryce.
Ryan, you mentioned possibly facing Ohio State in a playoff, and you did that with a straight face. Now, I've got Clemson supporters contacting me all the time, and certainly 31-0 comes up all the time. So until Ohio State actually steps on that field, considering what's happened twice here in about the past 5 seasons, obviously Ohio State's a great program, but Clemson has been the better team and the far better team the most recent time out. Well, the spring game's coming up, and in addition to covering it and having an eye on the playing field and wanting to see particular upcoming athletes perform, you're obviously have additional ties to it and enjoy the surroundings and the vibe.
Yeah, so it's on ESPN, so you could probably get a better view just watching on TV. But I'm excited to get up there, tailgate for a little bit, maybe head on over to Doug Kingsmore, watch the at least part of the baseball game. They play Miami over that weekend, so just an opportunity to get up to Clemson and just enjoy it, because it's going to be a while before the season starts. So any excuse to get up there is a good one.
Ryan Cantor, shaking the Southland. Please join him right there for the very best in Clemson football coverage. Of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. When I say that, I mean I've got a voice. I bring on the best media contributors across the industry. They've got a voice, and of course, you have your voice with bringing your comments and questions and your discussion and debate. Ryan, it's always a pleasure, and hope you enjoy the spring game.
Thanks. Appreciate it.